Hello, welcome back to Emerge, the health podcast for busy, high-performing women. I'm your host, Dr. Alex Swenson Ridley, and today I'm really excited to be joined by Debora Wayne, who is the founder and CEO of the International Chronic Pain Institute. She's a world-renowned energy healer whose leading-edge non-drug method, known as high-speed healing, has virtually helped tens of thousands around the world rapidly release chronic pain, depression, anxiety, trauma, battles with weight, binge eating, chronic fatigue, insomnia, and many other chronic conditions. She's a highly sought after speaker and #1 best-selling author of Why Do I Still Hurt? Debora has earned degrees and certifications in psychology, hypnotherapy, and chemical dependency counseling, has over 35 years of practicing and teaching meditation, is a nationally recognized glass artist, a former professional modern dancer, certified yoga instructor, and leads the only practitioner training worldwide in her proprietary method known as high-speed healing. So Debora, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It is a pleasure to be here.
I'm really excited to dive into all things, including glass artists. That's just kind of like a random thing thrown in there. That's awesome. I have like a side passion of interior design. So, maybe we'll have a completely random episode. No, not really. I love, obviously your work, it touches on a lot of issues and things that we struggle with at different stages of our life throughout our life. And so I'm excited to dive into that, but I always like to start with just hearing like how you got to the point of doing what you do, because I find there's usually an interesting story somewhere in there.
Fabulous. Yeah, well, I'm one of those driven women that has always had a lot of passion for different things that I absolutely had to follow. It was like never a choice for me. So from a very young age, I started dancing and wanted to become a dancer, was told you'll never be a dancer. So I became a dancer professionally to prove them wrong. And along the way, I also discovered meditation and started experimenting with food and discovered the power of food and nutrition and how that affects mental and emotional health. And that all sounds really great and like I was on a wonderful path, which I was. But by the time I got into late high school and college, I know now I didn't lose my way, but my way became crooked. And I ended up learning a lot of very tough lessons by not listening to my inner guidance. And I ended up, long story short, addicted to drugs, alcohol, binge eating, complete depression when I wasn't feeling anxious, and really just wound up in knots 24/7, driven, proving that I was good enough, earning great money, BMW in the garage, but I was bankrupt internally. And I had a lot of pain. It was physical pain. It was mental and emotional pain. It was every kind of pain. And I got to a place where I didn't want to live anymore. It was that bad. And I found myself one day lying on the floor of my big, beautiful walk-in closet surrounded by custom tailored suits and high heels. And I was just crying my eyes out, and I couldn't go to work that day. I couldn't get dressed. I couldn't stop crying. And I wanted to off myself. But I was too cowardly to do that. So what I did instead was I screamed out that day to a God that I didn't believe in. I didn't even think existed. Mm-hmm. And I said, if there's anything out there, I need help. And lo and behold, within seconds, I felt this palpable, absolutely 100% real force fill the closet, envelop me in love that I had never felt before, an unconditional love. It was so palpable. And I felt inner peace, and I heard, you're going to be okay. And I stopped crying, and I got up and I went in the other room and I picked up the phone and I called someone and I asked for help. And I started telling the truth about basically how much I hated my life. But I was faking it till you make it. Yeah. I did really, really well. And I started to unpack everything. And there was a lot to throw out, a lot for me. And I'm not saying any of the things I had or was doing are bad and wrong, but they weren't right for me. And I had gotten in a lot of pain, and it manifested physically. It wasn't just feeling depressed and anxious, it was physical problems, pain, symptoms that, of course, anything I tried wasn't working. I kept trying to get help for the physical stuff, but it didn't help me. And that's one of the big clues I discovered that had to do with much deeper hidden reasons, which, long story short, led me to my work today. And this whole crash and burn, what I call the closet crisis, it really led me to all the work that I do today. And I started going back to meditation, which I had stopped because I thought, oh, it's just not doing anything.
Right.
And I ended up having a series of these spiritual experiences that rocked my world. And they revealed to me that everything, all that empty space is not empty. It's filled with energy, light, and information. And this is vibrational information. And this life force energy is flowing abundantly everywhere. And it was flowing through me. And I became aware that I was going to be using this energy to heal myself and then other people, that I had a higher purpose here. And that was the beginning. And, at the time I thought, I better not tell anyone, they're going to think I've gone cuckoo. But it really, it was undeniable. And I had a series of, like I said, these experiences, which revealed all types of information that today I know is completely based on physics, which I had never studied. I knew nothing about, but it became the foundation of my work. And it's what's enabled me to help all these literally tens of thousands, it's been hundreds of thousands by now, people around the world suffering. And I've seen nothing but incredible miracles year after year. And happy to say, I live to tell the tale and find what I'm here to do. So there's a lot more, but that, I could go on forever. It was such a remarkable experience that has continued. And this was over 30 years ago now. And it has continued since that time, and continues to be the most profound experience I've ever had in my life.
Amazing. So our conversation actually just went a direction I wasn't expecting, but
it usually does when I tell the story.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, and I just, first I want to thank you for just being so raw and real and authentic about it. And, maybe not everyone listening to the show can relate to like the moment when you discover God, or whatever you want to call it, is real. I've also had that experience, and there's something so comforting in that, I think.
Yes,
and
yes.
just I think so many of us are not aware of, especially when we live in like Western medical world, how important spiritual healing and like full alignment with ourselves is in the process of healing. So maybe we can dive into that a little bit, because it sounds like that's part of your story.
It's a huge part. And, I grew up in an allopathic medical family. And so it was show me the data. And I've always been highly intuitive, and the arts, I've been involved in the arts my entire life. My parents were really into the arts. They appreciated it until I started relying on that, what I call intuition and higher thought, as a way of living and making decisions and guidance. And it was, I realized it was not safe to really talk too far out of that box in not only my family, but in the world.
Yeah.
So I began concealing that, which is what got me in trouble. And also it's what got me out of trouble and back on the path, and opened up my whole world of work. So, it's an interesting topic. And the beauty is that now we're living in a time where the new physics is really showing the validity of everything that we've considered spiritual and woo-woo for centuries, which is not woo-woo, or it would never have survived all these centuries.
Yeah.
And it's, two different worlds, but speaking a different language, but describing the same thing.
Yeah.
And that is something that, whether you love science or whether you love spiritual, or whether you're an agnostic or an atheist, it doesn't really matter. You're all welcome in that world. And there's some explanation for any of you. And that's living proof. And especially if you test it and discover that you'll have some type of experience yourself. That's really the proof.
Absolutely. The thing I was present to was, I've actually been studying a lot of quantum physics, and this really gets into this conversation. I've talked about it on the show some, but quantum physics essentially explains the existence of the spiritual world, essentially, and how we're all connected, and how energy is, involved in our physical being and our physical. So, in your work, because obviously you do a lot with like a lot of different chronic conditions and things that really can plague people for life, like to the
Yes.
point of where we're not living or our quality of life is severely
Mhm.
impacted. So, and we might be jumping the gun here, but I'm assuming like that aligning spiritually is part of that work. But, where do we start with kind of starting to transform some of these things?
Well, I start right with where they're at. In fact, I want to make it very clear, if you had an accident or an injury or something literally physically happened to you, or some type of toxins that was just physical, this still applies, because everything, your body, although it seems to be physical, is actually made of energy and vibrating particles of vibrational frequency. And until you grasp that, you'll just keep searching and going down the cut it out, drug it out trail. And this is why so many people don't get relief. But I start right where the person is at, right with what they understand. I'm not here to convert anyone to a spiritual understanding. That happens naturally for people once they start to work with me, and I explain and teach them the exact tools to show them how powerful their thoughts, their emotions, and their energy field really is. And once they have that, not just understanding, but they have experience of it, they see, I work with people who have, for example, 3 decades of fibromyalgia pain, not a day without pain from head to toe. And they're told this is incurable, nothing we can do for you. You're going to have to live with this the rest of your life. And in less than an hour, a lot of these people walk away completely pain free. It makes you ask questions, it makes you curious, it opens your mind, because people are like, how is this possible? And so it creates a natural curiosity, and then I can start explaining things from a different perspective. But I just meet them right at the level they're at. I've had many people come to me very skeptical. They're not interested in physics or consciousness or spiritual anything. They have hip pain and they want it gone. They have a thyroid issue, they can't eat anything, they haven't slept in 10 years, they just want to sleep. And I get that. I get it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know how much you're like willing to share on this, but like let's talk about, because I mean essentially what you're saying sounds like an hour really, and 3 decades of pain is going to be gone. So what's kind of the underlying process? Where do you start with with
Yeah.
figuring out how to just move past that?
Well, it doesn't require me with my mind figuring anything out. That's the beauty of
Right.
it, is that I have a deep conversation with most people, not everyone. Ideally, I would have a deep conversation. I would get to I can ask certain questions in a very rapid time, completely discover how they think and where their thinking is off and causing the very problem they're trying to get rid of. I can also discover pretty rapidly the people who are stuffing, denying, suppressing emotions. Those two key components are what I want to discover, because those are skills I can teach someone in a fairly short period of time, not in 1 hour, but I can teach them over a short period of time so that they can care for themselves in a new way without continuing to add logs to the fire they're trying to put out. Now, the third component, though, and this is what my real superpower, is working in their energy field. I can literally scan a person's energy field without knowing anything about them, without talking to them, without having a conversation. I mean, I work with people who aren't able to talk. Some are in comas, some are too young, some are too sick, some it's the middle of the night, but I can scan their field, and I've become so sensitive that even at a distance, yes, even with a group, yes, I can feel where there are disturbances in the energy field, literally feel it. And I bring in different vibrational frequencies that will literally communicate with via the field with the cells of their body. And and Einstein taught us this, when your body is exposed to the right frequency, it must change. So the frequencies I bring in are communicated via the field, and then that person starts to resonate with the frequencies they need. and it brings it into coherence, which is another fancy word for harmony. And literally, I've gone into a science lab several times where they've done measurements of very sophisticated equipment that comes out of Japan and Russia that very little, it's not that well known in the US unless you're in a physicist's office. And this equipment measures the organs, the meridians, and the entire energy field, both physical energy and emotional energy. And it shows the difference between before and after as I work on someone. And it really, that's where we first started seeing. Well, I knew years before I ever discovered this equipment, people were reporting to me that in one session, they were completely different, completely. I've seen the spine change and straighten up. People have reported it felt like hands-on chiropractic adjustment without me touching them. I'm not even in the same country sometimes. So a lot of reports, first from the clients I had been working on for years, and then the equipment showed the measurable results. So we are seeing physical change, emotional change in less than an hour. Now, does everyone hold it from 1 hour? No. Does everyone permanently sustain that? No. And there are reasons for that, but some people do. And most people will start to experience change within the first 1, 2, or 3 sessions, even if they've had dramatic health problems for decades.
That's really incredible.
It is.
Yeah.
That's why I'm so excited about it. I mean, it is anything but boring. I am so excited. I love the challenging cases in particular. I never know what to expect. Everyone's case is different. It's not a one size fits all. And it's so exciting to watch the relief when people have had, you know, pain or binge eating for years, cannot stop some type of addiction, can't sleep, have migraines daily for decades. My God, it's so exciting to be able to help them.
It is. And it's, it's such a needed avenue because so many of the tools that we have at our disposal, or I should say allopathically or in Western medicine,
Yes.
it's just masking a symptom. It's not really treating anything with a lot of people.
Exactly. Right. And I don't have to also, the typical ways that people, even with natural medicine, they'll be told we have to eliminate pretty much every food that they love, or they have to live on some type of drug or supplements for the rest of their life. I don't, and none of those enter into the way I work with people, including physical therapy. I don't even require physical therapy. But what's interesting is that often after I start working on people, they feel like exercising. They want to eat differently. See, their vibration changes and they are no longer influenced by the conditioning and the pain and the addictive energetic patterns that they've been carrying that they didn't know they were carrying. When that comes off, most people like feeling good and they know what would make them feel good and they gravitate to that. So people who've been never had the discipline to exercise all of a sudden say, I can't wait to go take a walk. I love going to yoga. I started dancing or swimming or whatever it is. They start wanting different foods. It's not me telling them. It's not their health coach forcing it. You've got to give up that sugar. They just don't want it. And I forgot to mention something really important, especially with what we're going through now, is the trauma. Oh my God. So I've studied many different methods of healing and practiced other methods. I've yet to find anything that releases trauma so rapidly without re-triggering the trauma than this. And so whether it was trauma from an accident or an injury or a surgery, many people go into surgery, come out worse than they were.
Yeah.
Or whether it's trauma from abuse of some kind back in childhood and they don't remember, or anywhere along their life path, even later in life, or the trauma that we're going through collectively and individually on planet Earth right now. This is awesome for trauma. Oh my God, it's so exciting to be able to help people in that way.
That's amazing. So let's talk like what is this? Is it because I know you said a lot about kind of digging pretty deep into where are we trapping emotions and whatnot, and I'm all for, we have to figure out how to tap into changing our vibrational frequency, because ultimately, like if we get super scientific with it, it's about creating a new possibility in the world of the quantum and allowing our bodies to express that. That's
Right.
like way high level for people, so I won't confuse you guys, but like maybe just give us an idea of like what does a session look like, or what is some of the
So a session can look one of two ways, either beginning with that deep conversation, just a conversation with me asking certain questions and listening very deeply between the words.
yeah.
Then helping enlighten people as to seeing through their blind spots that they don't even know they have. And so I help people literally like a coach would, saying, are you aware of this, this, and this? And very easy, very comfortable, and life-changing for people.
Mhm.
And I'm very skilled at putting the puzzle together in a new way of looking at their health, their life, or the patterns they're experiencing in their relationships, even their finances. These are all, everything's a pattern, whether it's
Yeah.
physical pain or disease, or relationship pain or disease, or your career, or your money, or you can't find your, it's a pattern, an energetic pattern. So I help people see through the blind spots, and then I work in their field for them. And like I said, I can sense where I need to work, and they lie down or sit back in a comfortable chair, and they close their eyes, and I just work on them in silence. And then we talk about what they experience, because this is not about me convincing anyone of anything. I don't do psychic readings, none of that. This is strictly their experience of the frequencies that I bring in. And for some people, it is dramatic, big Hollywood moment. Oh my God. And they're telling me these, all types of multidimensional experiences, similar to literally doing plant medicine or LSD, or just incredible technology that can, tap into areas of the brain and light them up. Um, and remember, there are no drugs with this. This is strictly energetic transfer, but they have powerful experiences. That's on one end of the spectrum. Sometimes it's people saying, didn't notice a thing, didn't really, it just felt kind of relaxing. However, my pain is gone, or I had a memory, I had a flashback. I started to remember things I haven't thought about in 30 years. Some people say, oh my God, and they start crying, or they laugh, they start releasing emotional pain that they didn't know they had. And literally, some people laugh it out. It's not painful or crying with everyone. A lot of people laugh out their trauma. It's wild. Some people have no emotion whatsoever, and they start twitching and shifting and moving around, and movements start happening as the stress comes off the body that they've been holding on to for decades, that they didn't even realize were creating literal muscular patterns in their spine. I'll never forget when I had a 92-year-old woman grow 2 inches in one session. Literally, her
Wow.
spine straightened so much from the stress coming off that she freed up, straightened up, had to raise the height of her walker 2 inches.
That's amazing. That's better. I used to, pat myself on the back for a 1/4 inch from a chiropractic adjustment, but that's
Right, me
like,
too. No, me
that's
too.
huge.
Chiropractic
Yeah.
years ago, my spine so much better as a result. But this
Yeah.
is similar, but without any touching. I watch people have the spinal adjustments just with my hands over their field, whether it's in person or at a distance. And I haven't worked in person in at least 6 years, unless I was at a live event. So it's mostly virtual now, and has been for quite a long time.
Yeah. And so it's so interesting, that I think it's worth mentioning. Like we are, even if we're distance apart, like for example, you're in California and I'm in Alaska, like it's possible to still connect energetically, because everything literally is connected. So if any of you are
It's
wondering,
impossible not to connect.
yeah.
It's literally impossible not to be connected. That's the misunderstanding. And when we work with this type of energy field exchange, the field is the missing link that for both health and disease that people are not hearing about. And
Mhm.
it's what changes everything. Once you understand, we live in a gigantic field of information. There's nothing hidden. There's
Mhm.
nothing being hidden from you or from me. And anything that you need, anything you experience, you're being influenced and you're influencing this field. And it's like a big ocean, and you're a droplet and I'm a droplet, and we're all interconnected. And there's also individual fields that surround every living thing, including your body, that extends out. Your body doesn't end at the skin, basically, but no one teaches us that. And so you extend out into a more subtle energetic field that is not visible to most people's eyes, and yet it is very real. And the invisible realm is the precursor to the physical, not the other way around. This is, again, the missing key.
Yeah.
And the invisible world, which people label as woo-woo and weird, is actually more real than the physical. And until we understand this, that's why we get so stuck and feel blocked and confused and feel like a victim. And why is this happening to me? Because you're not addressing the proper. You're looking at only the physical. And
Yeah.
the precursor, the body's the effect, not the cause. It's the effect. And this is, once you get this, it's the most exciting thing in town.
Yeah.
And the resonance, see, your thoughts and your emotions are also affecting your vibrational field. And so are other people's. And if you're not aware of that, you're a victim of it and not a master of it. So if you want to really evolve in your life, and you could call it spiritual evolution, you could call it human development, call it what you will, but we're all evolving. And you're evolving whether you like it or not. But if you don't become more aware of all of this, you end up a victim of it. And this is the problem we're seeing playing out both on the macro and the micro level. And that's what's happening in our world, so that we get a big wake-up call that we're all in this together. We're all interconnected, we're influencing, and we're being influenced by, and we have to become better at choosing and discerning what's helping and what's harming us. Make sense?
Absolutely. I'm getting it, so hopefully everyone else is getting it who's listening to this.
It takes a while. You have to hear it again and again.
Yeah.
For most people, because it's a new thought. It's not what you've been taught in school, in religion, in your family, in your doctor's office. It's just not, it's only now the tip of the iceberg starting to catch on. So the people listening to this call, you're actually a trailblazer is what I call you, because you're ahead of the curve. It's becoming more and more well known, and the science is helping speed that up, but it's actually the tip of a revolution in our understanding of health and healing and how it all works.
Absolutely. And I think something important to acknowledge is, because I, obviously exist outside the box, and you do too. And, you can come up against a lot of resistance because it's moving into the new. Like, even I remember Bruce Lipton came and spoke at my school when I was in chiropractic school. This is like 14 years ago. And he was talking about how our external environment actually influences our cells and our genetic code. And everyone was like, man, he's wrong. And like, he's a quack and all this stuff. And now that's actually accepted, even in for the most part. It's much more mainstream. And so a lot of what we're talking about and what you're talking about is, we're moving even beyond that to, it's not just like the physical environment we can see, but actually this thing around us that is our energy fields, and we come up against other energy fields and we can't necessarily see it, but we can sense it.
I love that you're bringing that up. I love Bruce Lipton's work, and he, clearly shows that the environment that the stem cells are soaking in is what's key. Well, our environment is not just our physical space. It's our mental, emotional space, the people we hang around, the podcasts we watch, whatever we're taking in is the environment we're soaking in. And the environment we were soaking in, literally from the womb and into early childhood before the age of 8 or 9, basically set the stage for our belief system and our emotional climate. And if in nowhere along the path of education are we asked to examine that, because that's what needs unpacking and redoing, so that you're not 60 before you go, what's wrong here? This doesn't feel good. And everybody is suffering in this way. Why me? Why me? It's why I wrote my book, because people started, why do I still hurt? Not everyone has this. And we've never examined properly the conditioning from childhood that will literally stay with us forever until we learn either mentally, emotionally, and energetically, and we really need to do all three if we really want to heal. We have to rework all of that and clear it up, clean it up, and get the frequencies back in line with our highest. And remember, the higher frequency, which is the vibration of love and joy and peace, it is stronger than the lower fear-based fear, hate, anxiety, depression, the guilt, the shame, all of that is a very different vibrational frequency. And I've yet to have anybody come and say, I'd love to pay you to help me feel more depressed and angry. It just doesn't happen. People don't want that. So we want to change that. We want to raise that vibration. And that's what everybody's seeking in some way. Yeah.
Absolutely. And for those curious, there's quite a bit of research that's been done that shows the different vibrational frequencies of, different emotions and energies and thoughts. And like, we're still only at the tip of the iceberg in understanding our brain and all of this, but like it's, and now we're like expanding beyond that, which is really cool. So,
it is. It's beyond the brain. That's what I want people to understand. These are states of consciousness. The brain is just a computer filtering information to the body, but the brain isn't the cause. The states of consciousness exist without the physical body. And there are levels of consciousness, which is basically why I'm able to do what I do. I discovered I'm able to access a higher vibrational state where these frequencies they're free and ever flowing. And once you clear out enough of your own earthly conditioning and emotional pain and fears, you become aware, or you meditate for 40 years like I have, you start to become aware that there's information that's filled with literally a state of bliss that we can access, and that it has nothing to do with time, space, distance, and it's instantaneous. Thought is instantaneously transmitted. And so we're talking about speeds faster than the speed of light. This is why I'm able to do what I do. And that's what people are not used to hearing. They're used to things take time, takes a long time to heal. There are layers, there's, levels. Some things are harder than others. These concepts don't hold water at a higher state of consciousness. They're just not true.
Yeah, absolutely. And just throwing more science in, kind of it sounds like you're able to access what we call our bliss body in quantum physics, which is very cool. And I won't do a quantum physics lecture, but it's the more I've learned about it, the more I'm like, this is just amazing. So
it's so exciting. It really is. It changes everything.
It really does. So for those listening that are inspired like me, and I'm probably going to reach out and connect with you a little bit, just from a personal standpoint, but how can we connect with you? How can we find out more? Obviously you have a book and you have other things.
Yes, I'd love to give everyone a copy of my book, a digital download. So if you go to the website, which is internationalcpi.com, and go to /gift, you will get a downloadable copy to any device of my best-selling book, Why Do I Still Hurt? And it's more of a workbook. So it's going to be like that conversation I was telling you about. It will start that conversation. Many people write back to me and they say, oh my God, I see it all differently now. I've even had healing just from the book. So I want everyone to grab a copy of that. It will take the conversation we're having today deeper. You'll also be invited to a free call that I do usually at least once a month, where I have, again, another conversation and take some Q&A, and you'll have an opportunity to ask some questions. You can always email me, though, over the internet as well. You'll also see all the different services. I do work with a handful of urgent cases one-on-one, and I have a group program as well, and a digital e-course for those of you who just want to do it alone in your living room. That there's something for everyone and every budget. So you'll find it all at internationalcpi.com. And if you have any questions, feel free to email us, and either I or my team will get back to. We answer every email. So happy to help. Really, that's what we're here for.
Yeah, no, that's huge. And I'll put all that in the show notes for sure.
Great.
But
Great. Yeah. And we'll share this. This is such an important conversation, and I so appreciate you having me on. And we share it with our whole audience as well, so they understand there really are actual medical people need to see. There are medical professionals more and more every day that are waking up to the fact that we've hit a wall. We all want to help people. We can go beyond the limitations of our previous training, and it's really quite exciting. And then we work together. Where this is not a
Yeah.
competition. This is called healing the planet Earth.
Yeah, in a big way. And I've had a few other guests on the show who've specialized in more of the energy work. And, Liz Larson from Cognitive Movement Therapy was one that similar. We were talking about the realm of quantum healing and quantum physics. And so I'm just excited that there's more people that I can.
Yeah. It's interesting to me. You'll probably smile when I say this. I have found that the chiropractors, I feel that they really were the first energy healers, that they were the most advanced thinkers, and that they were the ones that really pushed everyone outside the comfort zone, and the envelope expanded as a result. And I still find chiropractors, they're amazing. They're very open-minded. Even though they're touching the body, they understand energy quite well. Because they've been, when you're working with a body like that, day in, day out, year in, year out, you see what I'm talking about, and you see the emotional component and the way people think, and you listen to people. You can't not see it. So I always love interacting with chiropractors for that reason.
Well, good. And I have wrist issues that, everyone on the show's heard has kind of launched me into retirement and doing something else. But you and I might connect on that, because I'm really curious now to see if I can but with that, there's a lot of chiropractic techniques that are actually based on energy fields and not touching the spine at all, which again goes into all this. So
exactly, yeah, there are different varieties, different forms. Different people resonate with different practitioners and different methods. And I've had a lot of people over the years who they needed to go through some other types of healing modalities first before they were open to something like this. I mean, it's, I respect that. You know what else is interesting, though? That your love of interior design. You see, again, it's all about energy and space, and how we're affected by objects, how we're affecting the space we're in. You can walk into someone's home. You can feel what the people are like in that home. You can sense it. You can sense when people have had a fight. You can sense when there's been a party. It's held all energy. Energy never dies. It goes somewhere, and it's going into the walls, the lamps, the books. It's going into your environment. So we can't escape understanding this at some point, and the effects of it. It's everywhere present.
Absolutely. And the more in tune we are with that, I talk a lot about, because so many of us women who are busy and, doing all our things, we're completely disconnected from ourselves. And it's not just about like that you're on your phone all the time, or like have all, all this stuff going on. Like the more we can start to tune into ourselves, the more access we have to really being able to actually heal. And
it's the key relationship. I tell people, if there's one thing, it's developing exactly what you just said. It's developing inner listening, inner, not outer, inner, and getting to know yourself so well that you can feel and sense and know when you're knocked off base. You'll know it right away. But it requires spending quiet time with yourself to get to know yourself, and to not be distracting yourself from your thoughts and your emotions. You have to really want to listen and not ignore them and try to cut out everything that your thoughts and emotions and body are telling you. You want to learn from it. There's a message in all of it for you.
There is, absolutely. And you don't want to hit the point that you hit, and that I've also been sobbing on the bathroom floor, unable to get up and wondering if I'm going to be okay, and had that moment. That's the moment that I started all of this to help other women avoid, which, the sooner you listen to what we have to say, the more you are likely to not hit that rock bottom point. But
yeah.
So.
Learn from each other, learn from our sisters, and not have to go through the same hell. That's really advanced, to not have to go through your own hell and learn from someone else's experience.
Absolutely. It's a big deal. Well, Debora, thank you so much for coming on and sharing. And I don't know if people can tell, but like my energy level is way higher than when we started. I love this topic. So hopefully we did that for you listening. And any parting thoughts that you have for our listeners? I'll put links to everything we talked about in the show notes, but anything else you want to?
I would like to leave with one final thought, especially for those of you who really are still suffering from some kind of, whether it's physical pain or depression or anxiety or trauma or any type of anything in your life or your body that's causing you dis-ease. I want to really, really say, do not give up hope and don't stop. Take one small step forward, one step. And you do know what that is. People always say to me, oh, I can't figure it out. Don't figure it out. Listen inside, feel into it, take one small step forward, and that will open the next door and the next door and the next window and the next horizon. You're not going to get the 10-year plan.
Right.
So, but don't stop because of that. And don't think yourself into, oh, there's nothing left for me. Yes, there is. If you're alive, there is.
Yeah.
So take one more step and don't give up hope. And even if it's not me, find someone you can trust to talk to and resolve the inner conflicts. It's just so important for your health and your happiness and your high vibration.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that parting message and for joining us and coming on the show. I really enjoyed having you here in our conversation.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure and love getting to know you. And thanks for having me on. And thanks everyone for listening.